Since the 1880s, a bunch of European countries raced to occupy this continent in what is known as the Scramble for Africa. There were lots of different reasons for the colonization of Africa, including the abundance of raw materials needed for the Industrial Revolution and the spread of Christianity, among other reasons. And during this period, the African kingdoms lost to the Europeans. And since our story did not have the happy ending of standing up to the British and winning,
Sound! Retreat!
Africa was changed forever. As it currently stands, Africa has 54 countries and there are over 1,000 official languages spoken across the continent. With growing dissatisfaction of elected leaders across the continent and Africa experiencing weak economic growth from 3.3 to 3.5% in 2024, according to the UN World Economic Situation and Prospects 2024 report, the time has come to ask, would Africa not be better off united? Well, the first answer to this was the Organization of African Unity, which was a continental institution that focused on decolonization. In 2002, its successor, the African Union, was established in Durban, South Africa to push economic development and integration of Africa. Yet Africa really has not integrated that much. For example, by 2016, each of the 54 African countries had imposed a visa or non-visa requirement on each other. Loosening migrations could help, but one cannot help but wonder about the repercussions of this. For example, an argument against this was made on X by Hopewell Chinono. He argues that open borders would lead to an influx of people into more developed economies like South Africa, which could overwhelm the resources and infrastructure of a country and thereby causing an economic strain. He further adds that to implement open borders, countries would need to adhere to a list of economic, security, social services, political, and legal standards. A crucial element is the economic aspect. Africa is a continent that is rich in precious metals and strategic minerals. Around 30% of the world's mineral resources are found in Africa, including uranium for the generation of nuclear energy. Africa has 40% of the world's gold and up to 90% of its chromium and platinum, with 65% of the world's arable land being found here. And yet, Africa's natural capital as a socio-economic resource, according to the UNEP, is lost to the amount of $195 billion annually through illicit financial flows, illegal trade, and illegal mining, which is most evident in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC, which is rich in minerals such as cobalt, which is a key metal to produce electric vehicles. In 2022, the DRC was the largest cobalt miner, producing nearly 68% of the world's cobalt. In the same year, it was the fourth largest producer of industrial diamonds, producing 4.3 million carats. The potential mineral wealth in the DRC is estimated to be in the tens of trillions of dollars. And yet, according to Amnesty International, large-scale attacks against civilians by armed groups and the Congolese security forces has led to a humanitarian crisis where nearly 7 million people were internally displaced, with thousands of people being killed and thousands being forcefully evicted for mining projects.
Huku Goma iko nakuya inapiga ile mabomu. Après ikisha pita tunasikia tena wanatosha mabomu Goma huku inakina tushambulia hapa. Sasa tuko nakimbia tuko manyumba, huyu ndugu yetu akatoka huku iko pale iko nakia kuwesa. Bomu ikamkutana hapa na ikamlalua akakufa pale pale. Na wenye walikuwa pembeni wakarumia, mwingine huko hospitali.
Given that our continent has had and still has more than its fair share of conflict, and given that we have strong militaries like the Egyptian Armed Forces and the top 10 strongest militaries having more than 1.2 million active troops, and that's just the top 10 militaries' active troops, would the continent not be better off served by these different militaries working more in unison to stabilize countries like Libya, where there are people being sold off as slaves, and the DRC, where again, the estimated value of minerals is in the tens of trillions of dollars? Imagine the impact that could have on that country and the entire continent. The Grand Inga project, a series of 7 proposed hydroelectric power stations at the site of the Inga Falls in the DRC, if built, would be the largest power station in the world. There are people who argue that it could generate enough clean electricity to supply the entire African continent. It has been tried for some time to get the project off the ground, but with great difficulty. According to an article released on Business Tech, the economic impact of load shedding, which is the widespread national blackout of electricity in South Africa in 2022, was around 560 billion rands, and around 43% of the total population of Africa lacks access to electricity. Imagine the impact of a project that could power the entire continent. Every country could focus more on areas that they specialize in, like Nigeria and Angola with petroleum. This, coupled with pushing for trade using African currencies, could have a huge impact economically. Focusing on integration with economic growth, given the size of the population of the continent, could lead to Africa emerging as a superpower. As one of the greatest political scientists of our time often says,
power is largely a function of material factors. The two key building blocks of power are population size and wealth. You want to have a lot of people and you want to be really wealthy. Of course, this is why the United States is so powerful. It has lots of people and it has lots of wealth.
Africa being united does not necessarily have to mean all countries under one leader ruling all of us. It can be under a strong sense of federalism. But with a sense of unity and our collective interests being intertwined, we could ensure that we leave a better Africa for future generations. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, cheers.